And we begin with yet another round of threats from Russia, which is warning Kyiv of new strikes. The Foreign Ministry of the aggressor country has issued a statement about preparing new attacks on the Ukrainian capital. Now we are joined by the advisor to the Minister of Defense of Ukraine, Serhii Beskrestnov, call sign Flash. Mr. Serhii, welcome.
Good afternoon. I wish everyone good health.
I agree. Are there any clear signs already that Russia is preparing for a new serious attack on the capital and potentially not just the capital?
Well, we won't actually see the preparations themselves. It's all as usual, meaning the airfields are operating in the normal mode, and well, the Iskanders are on combat positions, but they really might try to launch more powerful and destructive strikes against us. But from my point of view, this looks a bit like Russia is panicking because they are at a complete standstill on the front lines and they don't have any positive momentum there at this moment. It seems they are struggling to find a way forward. Also, there's a massive and widespread public outcry in Russian society over our strikes on oil refineries, and we're actively and diligently working on this and will be working even more. So all of this now looks, well, like precisely the sort of frantic panic from the Russians' point of view, saying that they will attack Kyiv, try to attack production facilities and other critical decision-making sites. But we'll see.
Well, right now they're trying to scare us by saying they'll wipe Kyiv off the face of the earth, that they'll bomb it to ruins within a month. How feasible and realistic is such a scenario in principle, given the massive stockpiles of weapons, missiles and drones that Russia currently has? And considering the complex air defense system that we have to safeguard and protect Ukrainian skies?
I understand. Right now, we don't have such a major or overwhelming problem with the Shaheeds because, for example, if we look at what we had last year, back then the overall success rate of Shahed attacks was 12%. In this latest attack, it was only 8%. And before that, it was just 4%. And we have a lot of highly skilled guys working on these advanced interceptor systems. Our share of interceptors has grown to about 40% now. But we have only one problem, and that's the problem with Russian missiles. And everyone understands why. Because we need missiles for the Patriot system. The Russians are frequently and actively deploying ballistic missiles, and here we are completely dependent on our partners. We are trying by all available means to obtain these missiles, buying them, and asking all countries across Europe as much as we can. But we understand that these stockpiles in Europe and around the world are also limited. But there is also some good news here because for the Russians, for example, the production of ballistic missiles also has its limitations. According to our intelligence, they produce about 60 missiles each month, but they need these missiles not only for Kyiv, as we understand, but for the entire front because there are a lot of targets there, and they can't use all the missiles just like that all at once on Kyiv. Therefore, there really could be problems from ballistic missiles if we have issues with air defense supplies. But we will count on our partners. We will make additional requests because our partners also see this information, the messages coming from our enemy, and we will try. If we're talking about cruise missiles, we still have the means to counter them. But with ballistic missiles, that's a problem. As we can see, all the major troubles for Kyiv lately have been caused specifically by ballistic missiles.
And how often is Russia capable of carrying out strikes like the one we experienced on the night from Saturday to Sunday?
I can say that it's not very often. They do have enough production capacity in Alabina and Luzets to manufacture Shaheds, but as I've already said, Shaheds are more of a psychological pressure tactic because there are so many of them. But Shaheds are not a critical threat for us right now. The real critical threat is ballistic missiles. And as for ballistic missiles, well, let's put it this way. There can be periodic massive attacks, but it can't happen, for example, every day or every month. I try to tell people the absolute truth here, where we have real problems and where we don't. Because I understand well, I believe that people have the fundamental right to know what's really happening. I'm not going to say that everything is just fine with us. Yes, indeed, we have a shortage of missiles for the Patriot system, and everyone understands this, and we understand why. Because we don't produce these missiles ourselves and depend on our partners in this regard. The Russians understand this as well. The Russians also have a rough idea of how many of these missiles we have. They understand our capabilities and capacities. And unfortunately, there will be strikes, yes. But I can say that we will respond. We will respond symmetrically. And it will be very painful for the Russians. And we have already shown that we can attack Moscow and the Moscow region. If they attempt to terrorize our capital, our enterprises, or our decision-making centers, we will deliver a response that is both swift and decisive. And I will say it once again, it will be an incredibly painful experience for the Russians.
Ukrainian intelligence also published details today about the new Russian jet-powered strike drone, the Geran 4. What do we need to be aware of regarding it?
I can say that since our guys on the interceptors are working very actively, the Russians see that the effectiveness of the Shaheds is, well, decreasing over time. And for them, the solution will be to use jet-powered Shaheds. Right now, they are using the jet-powered Shahed 3, the Geran 3. It's like a regular Shahed, but with a jet engine. It has a limited flight range, about 300 kilometers, but now they are trying to make the Shahed 4 and are actively testing it. It has a larger warhead, a range of up to about 800 kilometers, but it also has an advantage, its speed. Well, compared to the Geran 3, its speed is somewhere between 300 and 500 kilometers per hour. There's also the Geran 5. This Geran no longer looks like a Shahed. It's more like a drone missile, and its speed will be, well, I'd say around 500 to 700 kilometers per hour. And this is specifically meant to create some very significant problems for our guys on the interceptors. But we fully expect that this will be the case, and right now we are currently designing, and actually not just designing, we already have highly advanced interceptors that will actively work against the Geran models 3, 4, and 5. And just last month, our guys already successfully and effectively demonstrated exactly how this works, and shot down a significant number of these brand new Geran 4 and 5 drones of Russian manufacture.
Mr. Serhii, thank you very much for the conversation. That was Serhii Beskrestnov, callsign Flash, advisor to the Minister of Defense of Ukraine, with whom we discussed Russia's attempts to intimidate Ukraine and Kyiv, particularly with new strikes. Mr. Serhii says that obviously such strikes will continue, but when it comes to drones, Ukrainian air defense is working well. There are problems with ballistic missiles. For us, this is a signal to go to shelters when an air raid alert is announced, and to take this seriously because the Russians are very angry about their lack of success on the front line, while Ukrainian drones are now routinely reaching deep into their rear areas. Next, we will talk about the front, specifically about the Oleksandrivka direction. You know that this is the border area of the Zaporizhzhia, Dnipropetrovsk, and Donetsk regions. Joining us from there is Vadim Kwiatkowski, Staff Sergeant of the 3rd Category from the Communications Unit of the 95th Separate Air Assault Policia Brigade of the 8th Air Assault Corps. Mr. Vadim, welcome.
Wishing you good health. Glory to Ukraine.
Glory to the heroes. Tell us about the situation in your brigade's area of responsibility.
You know, in the air assault forces, we often say that success loves silence. But from what we can share with your audience, I can say that the soldiers of the 95th Separate Air Assault Brigade and adjacent units fully hold the initiative on the battlefield. We are gradually, meter by meter, trying to move forward, clearing the territory in our area of responsibility from the enemy, consolidating our positions and moving further. The situation is fully under control. I can assure you that it will be very, very difficult for the enemy here. Our paratroopers are successfully carrying out their assigned combat missions and improving the tactical situation. Our artillerymen and UAV crews are working very effectively. This can be seen in the official rankings, and we are trying to destroy the enemy even as they approach, not allowing them to infiltrate or build up forces.
How are the Russians responding to this? Are they transferring additional forces to this direction? Or are they perhaps changing their tactics, given that the initiative is now clearly on your side?
The enemy's tactics remain virtually unchanged. Oh, I can say that lately their fervor has started to diminish quite a bit, so to speak. They try to remedy the situation by transferring their best units, like the Rubicon and so on, but we are handling it well. It hasn't affected our plans. The enemy's tactics remain unchanged. They try to infiltrate in small groups of several people. Sometimes they use various motor vehicles for covert infiltration, but our dedicated crews systematically destroy them as they approach.
The 37th Marine Brigade mentioned that they are currently also operating in your sector, and that these small specialized infantry groups have sometimes shrunk to just one individual person per group. That is, a single Russian tries to crawl across the field, across the steppe. Do you observe anything similar, or in your area of responsibility, do they still move in more compact groups?
Yes, indeed. We have personally witnessed such moments when they even try to sneak through one by one. But most often it's just some lone fighter who, let's say, got separated from his group and was left entirely without communication. And I can only strongly advise such people to surrender immediately, because all such uninvited guests will be tracked and eventually destroyed.
The Russians are actively targeting logistical routes. Obviously, Ukraine's defense forces are doing the same to the enemy's logistical routes. And accordingly, this kill zone keeps expanding and expanding. Some say it already reaches up to 40 kilometers. What about yours?
Look, regarding strikes on supply routes and the kill zone, I can say that this is a game that both sides can play. Our crews are professionals in their field who also successfully strike at the enemy's logistics. We are also trying to expand the so-called kill zone. In turn, we are trying to use more MLRS in order to preserve our personnel, our people, and to carry out tasks, including logistical ones, using UAVs and MLRS. This is the direction we are actively developing right now.
And do the Russians have MLRS, or do they rely more on biorobots, meaning their soldiers?
Yes, it is certainly true that the Russians also have multiple launch rocket systems. We definitely shouldn't underestimate the enemy, but there hasn't been any critical increase in their activity, as one might put it in this context. There are occasional attempts at escalation, but there is no evidence of a widespread or consistent trend at this time.
What does your brigade need to be even more effective? And how can we be helpful within the framework of the Friends of the Air Assault Forces project? This is a project where all Ukrainians can provide systematic support to the air assault brigades.
Yes, and I would like to thank you for that. Thank you. Thank you to the viewers who support the air assault forces. Right now, basically, the brigade is adequately supplied, but we wouldn't refuse additional support. Let's say we still have a need for quad bikes if we are talking about some technical equipment. And of course, we invite young specialists to our brigade, people with IT education, technical experts who could join our electronic warfare company, our communications and UAV units. So we invite you to the 95th Separate Air Assault Politia Brigade.
Mr. Vadim, thank you for the conversation. Thank you for your service. This was Vadim Kviatkovsky, Staff Sergeant of the 3rd Category from the Communications Unit of the 95th Separate Air Assault Politia Brigade of the 8th Corps of the Air Assault Forces, which is holding back the enemy in the Oleksandrivka direction.